So I'm Kristen Dillon, the chair of last year's budget committee, and in that capacity, I'm calling us to order as the budget committee of Hood River County for our meeting for fiscal year 2026-27 budget. With the permission of those here on the committee, I'd like to move item 6 on the agenda, election of officers, to number 2, just so that as we proceed through the other items.
Is there an agenda in the packet? We don't have one, do we?
Oh, sorry. It's on.
Oh, you have, oh, say I have.
Yeah.
Oh.
So you want to move 6 to 2?
They told me you can win one. And oh, that was different. And also, remember that.
Are there any objections to moving item 6 on the agenda to be item 2 and bumping the other items down?
Nope.
No.
Okay, so we'll proceed with election of a chair and vice chair for this budget committee. Are there any nominations for chair?
I make one.
Yeah,
Nope.
I would.
So that,
I would make a motion. I'd like to be succinct. I'd like to vote slate from last year as or nominate slate from last year as this year's slate.
All right.
and so that is Kristen and Matt.
Matt A.
Matt A, who's not here.
I'm here. Just,
Fine.
I was just waiting to hear if he was screaming no.
So I accept that nomination. Matt, do you accept that nomination?
that sounds great. Yeah, sorry I couldn't be there today.
I would second that.
Is there any discussion or any additional nominations? All right, let's move to a vote.
Let's if there's any opposition.
Any opposition to that slate being elected? All are in favor? Okay, we have a chair and a vice chair. This is the opportunity for members of the committee to disclose any conflicts or potential conflicts of interest related to items under discussion for today.
I will disclose the same thing that the other commissioners have, which is that we do get compensation from the county for our service.
Yep, noted for all commissioners.
Yes.
We all disclose that.
Great. So just so noted. Anything else? Good, I'm gonna move us on. Additions or deletions from the agenda. Let's take a moment to look what we've got here.
Kristen, I think Matt would now begin to run us through the agenda as chair.
Oh, no, Kristen's the chair.
Kristen's the chair.
That's the chair. Vice chair.
Thank you, though. Sorry about that. Nope, appreciate it. Yeah, I think as we get to the lower items, we can get some clarification on how we go through the budget stuff. Anything else, any other requested changes to the agenda? Moving on, public comment. Is there anyone here or online who wishes to give public comment?
Do we have do we do public comment at each session or so there will be other chances people give public comment?
And we're required in this one. We've
Right.
always done it where we've added it as an agenda item per request of you guys, and that's probably just good.
So you believe it's at our discretion beyond this?
It is at your discretion.
Great, thanks.
Is there anyone here who's opposed to the having at our discretion that will continue to have public comment on the agenda for each of our ongoing different day, same day meetings that we have?
No, I'd advocate for it.
Okay, great. Anyone opposed?
No.
Okay. That. Introductions and housekeeping items. So we could run down the board and do introductions. What do you have in mind?
I would say that this is not a new budget committee. Everyone here is now seasoned well. But for the public who might view the video, if we could go down the line and get everyone's name. And whether you are a commissioner or otherwise a volunteer.
Okay, Jonas?
Yeah, sorry. I'm Joe Bething. I'm one of the budget committee volunteers.
Matt Fullerton, I'm a volunteer on the budget committee.
Kristen Dillon, I'm a budget committee volunteer.
Arthur Babbitt's Commissioner District 2.
Letty Moretti, Commissioner District 1.
Ed Weathers, Commissioner District 3.
Jennifer, you're, I don't have a district on the chair.
Chad Munzer, Commissioner District 4.
Chris Orbeck, volunteer.
And Matt Altoff, volunteer for District 3.
Thanks.
Good stuff to do that too.
And let's have the staff here at the table do the same.
Allison Williams, I have already the administrators. Is the mic on? Yes.
Clayton Good, Finance Accountant.
Harry Patterson, Finance Director.
Okay.
And I would note for the record that the majority of our department directors are in the audience. Okay, questions?
Great.
During housekeeping, I would ask if anybody wants me to go through the book or you think you got it.
Right.
Huh?
What are you offering to do?
Well, we have 3 sections this year. There's the beginning summaries and table of contents, and the one by department is linked to the digital page if you're online using the digital version. The general fund is in a group by itself so that you can see everything that just applies to the general fund. And then all our other special funds, which are mostly restricted items in one way or another. Each has a summary sheet or very close to each has a summary sheet telling you a short narrative, mostly short narrative about the fund. Great.
Would the miscellaneous tab be future future editions?
We normally have a lot of questions that come back with handouts, so I thought it would be a good place if I print everything in 3-hole punch for you just to gather notes. I end up with a mess of a book by the end of it, so I thought maybe it would be more helpful.
Could I request, I think I sent you an email asking about the reserve policy, and I saw in the budget message, there's a particular resolution called out. Could we have a copy of that added to the book?
Yes,
And not today, obviously.
I was gonna bring one.
Next meeting's fine.
Okay.
Should have a
Alright.
handout, right? This is
Yeah.
part of the book.
So I think I'll actually, if it's all right, I think I'll move this on and then our item 8, now item 9, budget book form and format. We can go into and have that discussion about what exactly do we want to cover in person this year. Thank you for all that info. So anything else on introductions and housekeeping items? So the now renumbered item 8 budget books are passed out. Does anyone? We good on that one? Yep, looks good. Okay, excellent. All right. So we have 3 items of core business here for today. The budget book information form and format, the presentation of the budget message, and then scheduling our future meetings. I think to make not happen, and I failed. Okay. So on the information form and form, maybe we can, actually, well, how would we feel about actually hearing the budget message first to kind of get that context? And then as I see it, this form and format is where we can identify any missing items and also talk about what detail we'd like to go through that.
Yeah.
And then we'll move on to the next. So if it's all right with everyone, we'll go ahead with the budget message.
Sounds good.
Great, great.
I have a couple of additions for today. As you know, we've been working through a process with Baker Tilly, reference that in the budget message. And there were a number of items that the county has been putting together.
Oh, can I stop for just
Yeah.
a second? My apologies.
Yes.
We talk about like old hat about Baker Tilly,
Mhm.
just for the record.
Oh,
And for people in the audience who may not know what that means, other than a fancy name,
Yes.
who they are and what they're doing for us.
Yes, the context would be appropriate.
Yeah.
Thank you very
Yeah.
much. So as the budget committee will remember, as we've gone through our budget processes, there's the increasing understanding that the county is facing a sustainability issue, a fiscal sustainability issue. And so last year, the Board of Commissioners agreed to bring on Baker Tilly after we went through a request for proposal process, looking for entities who could do a third-party analysis of the county's organization and then our fiscal sustainability. And so that got underway this winter. They're working through that process, and a final report is a draft report is due to us in June. So it's not timing out perfectly with this process. But some of the early observations obviously are alluded to. I shouldn't say alluded to, they're directly identified in the budget message. So when we very casually refer to Baker Tilly, that is who we are referring to. And so we have a team from that group that was vetted through the request for proposals process to carry out this work for us. And so as our county has been working through the process, there are deliverables that they have been asking for that further inform the long-term fiscal sustainability of the county. One of those items is a capital improvement plan. So the county had an outdated capital improvement plan. We've just been putting together the elements of that. And so I will hand out a copy of that to Henry. I'm sorry, it's an eye test. We can give the spread of that. But it basically gives a 5-year look at projects that would have to be approved through a budget process or through having the funding line for the board to approve the funding. But the first year is what is included in this year's budget. The second item is just a bit of a preamble for the budget message today, to talk about the process. You are all veterans of the budget committee, and I feel like I'm still new, but this is the third budget year that I've been here. And I'm adjusting to the process in Oregon, which is stipulated in Oregon budget law. And so the first paragraph is just a reminder of Oregon budget law and the role of the budget committee and the lay members. That this is an opportunity through the participation of the budget committee members to publicly review our budget. And this excerpt is from the Oregon Budget Law Manual that is provided if you go to the Department of Revenue training for budget law. So the budget committee reviews and may revise the proposed budget before it's formally approved. These requirements encourage public participation in budget making, and they also give the public exposure to budgeted programs and fiscal policies before the governing body adopts the budget. This year, you noted that we sent out invitations for April 30th for a larger opportunity to review the budgets of the departments, an opportunity to put a face with a name. Obviously, as the budget committee, it is yours to set the agenda, but we wanted to provide you with that opportunity. This year, as we headed into this budget year, it required us going through 2 rounds of cuts to get to the proposed budget. There is great understanding amongst the departments that we are in a budget situation that requires significant work to get to a sustainable budget. What you have in front of you is proposed as a placeholder until we get to that Baker Tilly work. But I just want to acknowledge the really hard work that all of our departments did. And these budget books with the narratives give you a small picture of the department. I think particularly this year, as we are looking going through a process where we're going to really look at choices about how the county does business in the future, getting an understanding from the departments about what has been left on the table this year, because this is a very lean budget, and there's a great understanding that I heard a term today about deviant positivity. Now, the word deviant is an interesting term to use about positivity, but it catches your attention because it talks about what could you do if you had the resources to really provide the services in the way that you would like to as a team. And that's what our team aspires to, is the ability to do the work that they would like to do to serve this county. We realize it's fiscally constrained, and so we've got a process to work through. The last item that's highlighted in blue, we have been doing leadership training with our leadership team, and we want you all to know how we're approaching our leadership work to act as a unified, high-performing leadership body that strengthens. We are all the administrators of the budget that is provided in order to do our work. And so we are a high-performing leadership body that strengthens Hood Rivers County long-term sustainability through fiscal stewardship and service to the community. This leadership team has committed to leading collaboratively, seeking new perspectives, open to the hard work that is ahead, for more informed decision-making, focusing on collective results and modeling behaviors to build trust across the organization. So I just thought that was a great preamble to let you all know the work that we have been doing. So now to head into what is before you in this budget message. Thanks. So for 26-27, we are presenting a budget to you that took some hard work to get to, but is a placeholder so that we can really look at in this beginning of this next fiscal year, what is ahead with the Baker Tilly recommendations. Many of you who were on the budget committee in October of 2020, as the county wrestled with those same conversations then and passed the levy, knew that the time was coming to look at that long-term sustainability and what would be needed for a fully functioning county operation. Despite the challenges of our lean staffing and the employee turnover that we have had, the county continues to make great progress on our 2021 to 2026 strategic plan. We are at the end of it. So the Baker Tilly work that is coming, the work here will help us inform a new strategic plan moving forward. So we described the Baker Tilly work, which is outlined on the first page of the budget message. They have been through a process. They came in February and did interviews with all the department heads, a couple of members of the commission, members of the budget committee, and again, all of our department leaders. As they took that feedback, they noted that our county organization is extremely lean. We have a number of places where we have single points of failure, meaning that we have, because of the tenure of our employees, we have a number of places where we're going to have retirements in key positions. From an administrator worried about sustainability, I'm really worried about succession planning and what's up and coming. it takes budget to do succession planning. The next sentence of, based on Baker Tilly's review of comparables, we are so lean that we are efficient, and that further efficiency means that we would lose critical programs.
Can I ask a question on that?
Yeah.
I don't mean to. No, I mean, I know you're on a roll there. Is there? Critical seems like an interesting word to me when I read that. Is there any context as in critical, as in requirement? Statutorily, self-proclaimed critical, what does that really mean? I mean.
I would, from the author's perspective, the services that we do, we consider critical. And there are statutory services that we have to provide. So I think we think that the work that we do is critical. Obviously, when we go through this process, we're going to look at statutory versus non-statutory.
Sure. And I didn't mean to make light of that.
Right.
It's just, I will.
Yeah. Good.
Just didn't know if you would ask, if you would assign that statutorily versus what
Right.
we deem as critical or
Right.
whatever. So thank you.
So I guess, so what I'm understanding, you're giving us a summary of what you expect us to take from the report, which we will have in June. So really, it's hard to make anything of it without seeing the actual report, but this is the summary that you're giving us.
Right.
Of what the nature of what we should expect to see.
Right. Yeah. I think, and it's also building the case for a placeholder budget. As we look at the next one about
Right.
the 2021 to 2026 strategic plan identifies modernization. Modernization is major systems. It takes investment, and it does take budget to make that, and it takes people to make that modernization happen. And again, we went through the courthouse analysis this last year. It's going to take us time to get to consolidation of facilities. So we are still essentially inefficient by the nature of the facilities that we're operating in, that are older and take significant dollars to maintain. So as I mentioned, to get to this year's proposed budget, departments had to make tough choices through 2 rounds of cuts. Across the county, much of the savings was achieved through, increases in materials and services, unless approved, leaving positions open and cutting capital. Significant influences. So this budget year sees the second year of the higher PERS percentages. The county does have a side account that will age out, that has aged out as of the actuarial report from 2024. And so we will see those increases again in the 2027-2028 biennium.
Could you just explain that a little bit? So we've aged out of our site account, but we don't know what the PERS board is going to do the next biennium, do we? Or have they given us a forecast?
No, I don't have a. Well, we have the actuarial analysis that was done to provide our current rates. And then there are projections based on the expectation of what our liability is and what the coverage will be.
Okay, that's exactly what I'm asking. So we do expect to see those numbers go up in the next biennium.
Yes.
Great.
And just as a reminder, sorry,
Mhm.
we continue to slow progress through the budget message.
That's all right.
What wasn't the increase in PERS in the order of like over $1 million or something additional last?
It's every
Per
2
year.
years, but we found out when we received the actuarial report in December, this just few months ago, that the side account ran out of money because of comp and class, how salaries and benefits have exploded. So because of all these things, it's based on salaries. We used all our side account, though we have a couple million plus to still pay on the bond through June to 2028. So we'll be paying.
Paying a bond and we're not getting benefit. We've already used all the benefit we can get from it.
Right, exactly. Right, and 992,000 was the increase last year. So we involved this year, next year would be a subsequent.
Where is that in the budget? Where's the bond payment in the budget?
It's the very last one, I think, 490 in the special funds area. Yes, debt service.
Yes.
Yes.
Since we're a little sidetracked.
Sorry.
No, that's fine, isn't it? It's one of the pieces that Baker Tilly's were going to give you a template for a long-term forecast.
Yes.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear the question. A template
I
for
wanted
what?
to make sure that we would get a template for a long-term forecast.
Great, thank
So
you.
we're not looking just at 1 year at a
Yeah.
time, but out 3 to 5.
Yes.
Thanks.
Yes. That's why they were pushing us for capital improvement plans and those things so that they can do a reasonable forecast based on assumptions.
And I'm hoping it will be in a template format that will be handed to you.
Yes.
With variables then that you can tweak and
Yes.
maintain. Well,
Yes.
that's great.
Yes.
I hate to do this, but it's Chris's fault. You, this form that you gave us, you said it was capital improvements, but I see both capital, I see large structures. I also see equipment, vehicles.
Right,
So it's really a combination of a vehicle and a capital plan. Is that
Right.
correct?
right. Yeah.
Great.
Vehicles, from an auditing standpoint are capital. Yeah. Okay, any other questions?
It's so long to do this.
Okay, so again, personnel services this year, you saw a 3% increase this year over last year, which included leaving a number of positions open. But our materials and services have decreased. This year, our property tax revenues were based on a 9% increase last year because number one, we budgeted conservatively. Number two, we had Cardinal Glass age out of their exemption, their enterprise zone. And then we had a number of properties that were disqualified from their farm qualification. I'm using the wrong words there. This budget also, as you know, forestry is one of the mainstays for providing revenues to the county budget. The dollars that come into the general fund to support operations are based on a 10-year average. And that 10-year average, which Doug can very eloquently describe to you, is based on an analysis of bid prices. And the expectation is that the bid prices are trending downward. And so there's about $142,000 less in this year's budget as a result of that 10-year average. As you know, counties are a partner with the state of Oregon and a number of statutory services that we provide that rely on pass-through funding. The state of Oregon is also going through budget issues. There's no secret there. And so there is a constant effort to ensure that we're continuing to maintain our share of the dollars for those shared services. The county has benefited from a number of years of positive revenue from investments. And when I wrote this, they were heading downward. I think they're tipping up a little, but it's a constant management issue in a volatile market world.
Well, they tip up, but then our expenses go up, or they go down, and our expenses go down. So which do you want?
True. Again, I passed out the capital investments, so we have a long-term need for facilities that we need to be mindful of. Facilities, roads, bridges, vehicles. The county maintains a huge number of pieces of equipment that are needed for the operations that we do in road and all of the fleet that we provide. The county uses what is in this budget for COLA is 2.7%, and that was based on the December to December CPI-U for all urban consumers. That's the benchmark that is also used in our collective bargaining agreements for consistency. So this budget does have a number of one-time expenses. we want to ensure that the Odell community plan continues. We just heard that that grant got authorized and will move forward. That's really important to the Odell community. Along with that, we're working on the countywide ADU code. There is a one-time project in here for Mount Hood Town Hall, the energy project that is happening here. So the capital fund, our capital improvement plan identifies 2.2 million in capital. Of that, 973,000 is the Mount Hood Town Hall project. The county also continues to see great success with our grant programs. This budget includes new employees that are associated with grant programs. So on Monday, the Board of Commissioners approved a grant with the Bureau of Land Management that will provide a staff person reporting to our emergency manager who will work on wildfire mitigation projects and the implementation of the community wildfire protection plan. Additionally, on Monday, there was a grant, the impacts grant, awarded to our parole and probation division that will employ an additional person for the work there that supports the LEAD program and also the Community Action Council's warming shelter. As our departments, as we worked through this budget and we're making choices about providing essential services, there are a number of asks that the county has received. And I identified that I did not include the USDA wildlife contract. That was after discussions about the benefit. It is something that private property owners pay for. The county has not been using that service. So that is not included. Hood River Adopt-A-Dog asked both the city and county together to provide $200,000 for their operation. We have them included with the remainder of the Hukari fund, so about $37,000. And also the building upon which they have a zero cost lease that they're able to utilize for their operation. And the museum requested $100,000 and we have them in for their contract amount of $66,000. And then again, we support the building, custodial, utilities and grounds. So it's about a $90,000 budget. So even with these limitations, our staff is committed to doing good ongoing work. We worked through this fiscal year, as you'll remember, in approving the budget for last fiscal year, we anticipated a spend down of reserves, but we ended with ending fund balance of just over 5.8 million. That became the beginning fund balance for this year. So this budget proposes, and just speaking generally about the general fund, because that is where we focus much of our attention. This general fund proposes a beginning fund balance of 5.84 million and revenues of 19,716,000 and change. And general fund expenditures of 23,153,000 and change. Leaving a contingency of $1,005,000 and an unappropriated ending fund balance of 1.4. So that is consistent with what we proposed last year and then ended up better than that. I will say that much of the savings last year came through either not doing projects due to a lack of capacity and staff turnover. And so, you know, on average, we've been averaging about a 7% turnover rate. We had periods during last year where that was somewhat higher. So this budget includes a table of budgeted actions that that are anticipated in this year. With this budget, there is a long table there. We have our 5 goals of modernizing the county organization, our internal systems for effective, efficient, and resilient services. This includes continuing the process of evaluating employee compensation, carrying out the basic utility process, centralized public information is really critical. That became very evident during the last two emergency operations. We had the Rowena fire, we had the flood emergency. Centralized public information to support the efforts of our emergency manager are really critical. So we would propose to convert contracts for public information that we have in this budget to be an employee. In fostering financial stability and strength, this budget will see the benefit of the addition of the position in assessment records and elections. We worked through a process in that division to create some ladders for the employees, so that position is just coming on board. As you know, during last year's budget, we talked about the return on investment by adding that position. Again, we are continuing to work on facility replacement. If we are successful in some of the ask for grant funding that will allow us to continue that planning, that would come back to the board as an amendment to this budget. Forestry continues their work, their critical work in laying out timber sales and bringing the carbon project online. We are now starting to see the benefit of having a health department that includes prevention and veteran services. This budget maintains the grant programs manager, who's not only improved county processes to resolve audit deficiencies, but has been actively seeking grant funds, helping us, pulling her away from Sherry's primary focus, but helping us also get state and federal requests made, which are so critical for many of our capital projects. And again, we have budgeted to ensure that we can update the strategic plan. Another focus of the board is increasing housing diversity and affordability. So the Odell Community Plan. We are working with partners on the development of a permanent location for the warming shelter. The ADU code update I mentioned earlier, and the county continues to use its construction excise tax to assist housing efforts as those come forward, requests come forward to us. This budget continues the investments in Mid-Columbia Economic Development District, the Hood River Energy Council, and OSU Extension. We are working on the county's overall communication, as I mentioned, and there is work and budget that will need to be utilized ahead for the transition of our communication systems and centralized public information and website work. As many of you may know, there are requirements that just got pushed out a year to make sure that our website and our materials that we're providing are ADA accessible, and that's a really heavy lift across the county. But it is a modernization effort that we will be mandated to do. And the final goal was to adapt the forest management plan to meet current and future needs. And that work is underway as the board knows, we've been working through the forest management plan policy. This budget also, in emergency management, that position is not fully grant funded. There is general fund support of emergency management to make sure that that statutory role is continued and it's become evident in the carrying out of the initiatives in regards to wildfire. I think lastly, just want to recognize the work that we do across the county. And one of the things that we do is invest the dollars for many of the taxing districts as treasurer. And that is a big role, given that in the dollar bill, you see the small amount that comes to the county and the rest out to our districts. And so presentation of the budget, this brings me to the end of the narrative. And I just, again, would reiterate the hard work on behalf of all the departments and the desire on their part to be able to identify for you what is included in this budget and what is not, with the possibility of presentations next week. And take it from there.
Thank you, Allison. I do recognize all the work that went into creating this. From the committee, in response to that presentation, are there areas of question or additional info, whatnot that you'd like to follow up on from that?
I've got a simple question to start with, if that's okay. So back on this paper you gave us, which is the capital planning, could you explain to us? We have a program, a vehicle replacement program. We don't seem to have any programmatic. I didn't think we had anything programmatic in terms of large capital replacement. I think you mentioned the other day something with an antiquated program, maybe. And so could you just explain what do we have in the way of programs and plans concerning the capital that we see on this sheet?
Right, okay. Yes, so we have a vehicle program that was put together a number of years ago. And that formed Fund 315, which is our capital fund for vehicles. There are a number of vehicles that are in that plan and slated for replacement. There's a replacement program in there. And all of the departments contribute toward that capital fund for vehicle replacement. What we have realized in the last year is that it needs an update. I think the replacement costs were based on the cost of the period of time that the program was put together. And we really need to take a look at that program to make sure that it encompasses all of the non-public works fleet, because there is a vehicle program in public works that's associated with the road fund. So what you're seeing before you is what we currently have on the books for that vehicle program. And then included with that is the result of looking across the county at capital needs that were developed through the bridge assessment program, looking at the road program, and then identifying purchases and projects that would be land purchases and capital projects that would be carried out in forestry. So that's what this list looks at. And basically we line it out and look at potential dates for programming those investments. The vehicle program was laid out, and only the purchases that you see in there were the purchases that were programmed for this year. You will see a number of non-funded projects in outlying years. And that's because we're working on a funding mechanism for them. So. I know, it's an idea.
I'm gonna confess, I don't yet understand this at all. But so what you're saying in terms of when you said that there was the need for updating, you're actually talking about the vehicle replacement plan, which is, I don't know, 7, 8 years.
Mhm.
Look, it was Corey's predecessor put it in place. It was the first one we've done. We had
Right.
nothing before then.
Right.
He put the program in place. It was a great start. We knew it would need adjusting, and you're saying it needs adjusting.
It needs adjusting
Yeah.
and it needs a policy around it in
Right.
terms of making sure that, the vehicle that is purchased is on the list and the vehicle that replaces it. And, over the years with different staff people involved, it's not what it was intended. I mean, not what it was originally. We need
It needs to
to
be refined.
refine it. Thank you.
No,
Yeah.
that's totally expected. I thought you were talking about something else. That's
Okay.
kind of why I asked that question.
Yeah.
Sorry. I have a bunch of other things, but I think.
I have a related question, I think, related to the capital vehicle fund and the timber deposit interest fund that are mentioned. So that's related to the resolution 2223, which we're gonna be getting. And I just I didn't understand, I wanted to be sure I understood what you're saying here and understand how it should affect our it should have an effect on our deliberations. But it said there's added reserve capacity in the capital vehicle fund. Does that mean there's more money in it?
No, so that is, yeah, thank you. So when we utilize resolution 2223, which provides a percentage that was a board goal for, having unappropriated ending fund balance and contingencies. The concept is that the vehicle program, that capital fund that was developed, and then the timber deposit interest fund could be used to supplement. In this case, we are only showing what is, am I saying that correctly? What is in the,
My understanding was that the capital fund was the 301, which we show in here, which is 0. The 315 was created and was only general funds, and I believe was a response to the resolution 223.
It was.
And it was specifically kept separate to be only general fund. And now it's starting to morph to where we're getting other funds contributing. And that's kind of changing the nature of what it was doing. It was sort of helping that resolution. Now it's kind of not. Now it's a mixed bag. That's my understanding.
But I think it's a similar story on
It doesn't
the,
have all
you
county.
asked about the timber deposit interest fund. And the timber deposit interest fund, when we talk about reserves, we're not including that in this, in your calculation. When we do the math on what is the reserve in this budget, that is not included, but that fund is available with some restrictions that are not entirely clear for relatively general uses. So one might think of it as being reserve-like. But that's something we should talk about. It's actually on my list of
Okay,
items that
okay,
are,
good, we can,
it is set up in our administrative code, so there are a number of funds that are associated with the operation of our timber or our forestry program. The timber deposit interest fund in our administrative code was specifically set up under the budget and finance director so that that purpose could be carved out for the direction of the board and the budget and finance director. And in my conversations with the past administrator, it was a fund developed because we did not have a fund or other capital outside of vehicles that had been developed. So that helps. I know.
I think I still don't understand what relevance those funds have, but this is perhaps something we can discuss.
well, actually, it's a relevance in
In
terms
a
of,
bigger form.
it was used in balancing this budget, so we do have to talk
Okay.
about it.
That's helpful, okay.
Well, we're on
So I might put
capital.
that on for something that we'll want to discuss.
I'm gonna give you a list
of those, okay, okay. That was my main question, thank you.
While we're on capital, Allison, can you give us a bit about the courthouse? You've got 3 numbers here that sum to 120 million over the next 4 years. Hopefully that anticipates actually replacing the building, right?
Well, we've got a heavy lift there. So first of all, I think when the commission discussed the project, understanding you know, how the county would do for it, that's the heavy lift. So it is number one, we are going back to the Association of Oregon Counties and the Oregon Judicial Department to ask for planning dollars because there is a carve out of dollars that are specifically for courthouses. I don't know how deep we want to get on the topic, but
Just an overview.
yes, and so the state funds only pay for 50% of the portion of the building that the courts occupy. And so that means that the remainder of the funding has to be developed by the county. And for us, it would most likely be through a bond project or other major state and federal grants. Or as we advocated for during our presentation to the AOC OJD task force, which is one of those acronyms. For small counties looking for some legislative relief. Does the state pay more of a share? Does the state offer us some flexibility to do a joint courthouse? I mean, there are a number of questions that we issue. So at this point, that's a placeholder based on what we know now. Looking, just recognizing that there's a cost out there of a major facility that has major security requirements in terms of, which elevates the cost in terms of replacing it. But replacement is still the best in terms of what the state's requirements are for how a courthouse needs to be structured.
And if you want to know more, I'll be happy to sit down with you and tell you the whole history. But suffice this, like Allison's summary is great, one of where we are.
Other questions in response to the budget message?
I have a bunch of stuff, but I kind of want to
Okay.
let people figure stuff out.
I would have, this is a data request, and I apologize if it was somewhere else and I didn't see it. I'm looking at page 21 in the budget book. And the thing that would really help me in thinking about this year is if, in addition to the budget for 25-26, we could see the projections for 25-26. Those numbers are referenced in the message, so it'd be really helpful if a column could be added. So we have both budget and projected for 25-26.
And you gave the Board of Commissioners a projection when you did the quarterly report.
Right.
So we all have that in our head, but you guys.
It
have
would
to
just
see
be
it.
nice to see those across,
You
see
need
that
to see
kind of
those too,
across.
yeah.
That'd be awesome. Thank you.
So where we are looking for actuals. Yes.
Well,
Or
Yeah.
actual projections.
Your projection, yes. Your projection of actuals.
Yeah.
And I guess the other question I had is, you mentioned the idea of this being a placeholder budget. And I guess I was interested in understanding more, how you see that, knowing that the budget process is pretty defined and a little bit cumbersome. So what does it mean to
Right.
be asking for a placeholder budget?
I think this budget, as I mentioned, all of the departments worked really hard to get to this budget, which we know we need some sustainable solutions moving forward. We don't know what those are yet. And when you work through that process, change in governmental situations takes time. So if there are major changes that are suggested or recommended, typically you lay out a plan because it may, like if it is changing the way that we're doing a business in one division or another, there are union contracts that are implicated, et cetera. And so this allows us to appropriate funds to continue to operate the county, pending the receipt of the Baker Tilly work and the hard work that we have in terms of looking at the options and putting a plan into place. So as you know, in Oregon budget law, you can appropriate, and as we have demonstrated, you don't always spend the appropriations because that's what gave us our beginning fund balance this year. And so it is the work to make sure that we've got appropriations to begin the budget year, knowing that we've got work to do with the Baker Tilly work, if that makes sense.
So would you imagine doing revisions to the budget during the 26-27 budget year? Based on the Baker Tilly work?
I think as the board comes together to look at the recommendations, I think it comes with an implementation plan. And there are things that could be short-term versus long-term. And so I think My biggest concern is when you're operating in a public environment, thinking through that holistically, because we don't always know what the implications of some changes are. So for example, last year, new administrator knew we had the potential of not receiving all of the funds in parole and probation. And so that was a department that was looked at for layoffs. What, the side impact of that was that the way our judicial system is set up is that many of the DUIs, et cetera, those charges come with a community service component. And so there was a community service program that had to be set up because we eliminated the work program supervisor. And so that had an impact on the VA's office, on juvenile, with carrying out that work. And so by going through a process like we are with Baker Tilly, it allows you to look at everything holistically and to think through what are the options and what are the implications of these options, so that we're also managing the risk of some of these decisions. I think our parole and probation department would tell you that they are really worried about how they're currently operating because of the population that they're managing, and that creates a safety risk. And so it's a thoughtful approach for how we would structure things moving forward.
But
Thank you.
if we approve a budget this year, that is our budget for the year.
Yes.
We're not approving another one. I saw Sherry get it.
Yeah.
We're not,
We do have a method of change. We can budget adjust during the year. But realistically, if you think we're gonna be getting Baker Tilly information and first sitting down to these meetings June, July, it's gonna take some level of planning. We already start working on the next year's budget by October. So you'll see more about in next year's budget.
so this is what I want to talk about, because we're being asked to approve a budget that is placeholder, as you described. And so I've done a whole bunch of analysis over the last couple of weeks, trying to understand what that means to me and kind of what things I need to understand to say yes to something like that. So could I have a couple of minutes to just go through some of the analysis that I did?
Yeah, that's great.
So, sorry, I'm trying to get this as concise as I could, just to boil it down. But in 25-26, we approved what we knew to be an unsustainable budget. We had a good amount of discussion about it, and we were quite well aware of what we were doing, but we were aware that we had a budget that started with 6.5 million beginning fund balance and ended with 1.4 million unappropriated and 1 million contingency, which meant that it was unsustainable. It was spending down reserves to the amount of 4.1 million. So we knew that, but staff explained to us that the Baker Tilly process was happening. It was underway, and they encouraged us to wait for significant action until the recommendations were available, which at that time we believed would be by the 26-27 budget cycle. We know that hasn't happened. It's not super far off, but it's not there in time. At that time, I suggested hiring freeze, with all hiring going to the Board of Commissioners. Staff explained why we should leave that as a management decision. And they committed to working to exceed the budget, which means basically to not spend down reserves as much as the budget on paper said they would. And I think the results show that they achieved that. So I think that was good advice to us, and I think that they delivered upon that suggestion to us. And recognize in recent years we've had pretty much every budget has been millions in the red, and has not, the actual results have not been, in many cases, been a significant increase in reserves, not a decrease in reserves. And this was because of the budgetary confusion. This is a discussion we had. We knew that with I always get the acronyms screwed up, but I think it's the COVID and the IIJA, or is it the ARP? Is it IIJA? It's ARPA, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So American Recovery and something else,
Rescue Planet.
Yeah,
Rescue Plan Act, okay.
IHA is rich.
Oh, that's bridge stuff, that's right, yeah, okay. I'm working too many different big
Yeah.
projects, thank you. So ARA and COVID funding created a huge amount of budgetary confusion, and we really could not come up with a way of budgeting so that the budget document was far closer to the reality of what we should expect for what happens to reserves overall. We also knew that those dollars were through the budget as of last year, and so that we were entering a new era now. So when 24-25 closed, the ending fund balance was actually $1 million higher than it was when we did the budget. So Jerry got to smile and add $1 million to that number. So this is all right. Yeah, it's so we have so we started with 7.5 million instead of 6.5 million. And you see on the
Got
actuals.
got it. Coming into the next.
So
right.
coming into,
So it was $1 million less than starting the year, but more than was anticipated at the end of the year.
so the math of it, let me just give you the numbers.
Thank you.
The beginning fund balance last year was actually 7.5 million. And assuming that the 5.9 is 5.85, so 5.9 million ending fund balance is correct, which we don't know yet. It may wind up being a little bit higher, but that means that so we start with 7.5 million and have a 1.6 million reduction in reserves from that higher number that we actually
Yes,
started.
I
with.
get
7.5 million went down by 1.6 million.
Yeah.
So that means that instead of the 4.1 million that we expected to eat in reserves, we ate 1.6. So that's good on our staff for having delivered on that.
Yeah.
So we start 26-27 predicting 5.9 million in fund balance. Budget has proposed 1.4 million unappropriated and 1 million in contingency. So the budget that we have before us proposes a $3.5 million reduction in reserves. So clearly it again fits into the unsustainable category. And the question we have is, can we live with that given the nature of where we are with the Baker Tilly process cooking along and with other things that are happening? And so I have a bunch of notes about that. Number one, so we don't have the Baker Tilly recommendations yet. Sounds like we're going to have them sometime in June. Staff is proposing basically that we tread water. I'd say that means that no major changes while we wait for recommendations, but there is a forecast of a $3.5 million reduction in reserves. So that's a significant expenditure of reserves, depending on how much we actually spend of that, which I'll get to in a minute. The budget includes a $450,000 transfer from the timber deposit interest fund to cover the downward trend in timber fund dollars, which comes as a result of declining timber prices over recent years. That's not a sustainable practice. We can do it this year. That fund won't be able to prop up the timber prices, or the equivalent of propping up the timber prices over a long term. And in fact, we've stated that we wanted a review of what were the reasonable uses of that interest fund. And Elsa and I have had different discussions with Jeff Hexel about kind of what the intent was, but in any case, last budget cycle, we requested to put it on the agenda, a discussion of to establish a policy for that fund. And it's one of the things that we just didn't get to in this last year. So we're left again without an explanation of what that fund is valid to be used for. If the purpose of that fund is to prop up the timber prices, then there would be no reason to take the interest out of that fund. You would just leave it there.
Permission to speak on this subject.
Sure.
Clayton found, I think it was Clayton, we've looked at a lot of timber resolutions. The original resolution, when it set up, it said that the county would use the timber, that the timber interest would go in my care for some reason, but in its own fund, and that it would be used to help the county as a county subsidy.
General
but-
fund.
Yeah,
The general fund, it doesn't say anything about capital, and that's not the resolution, that's actually the administrative code in the forest management plan talks about it. And so that interest, is up to the discretion of you all to supplement the general fund in general. Although I have heard it said other ways where, prior administrator thought this was capital, there's all these other talks, but we have never found a resolution that matches that. What we see is the policy that's in the admin code, which is very simplistic. It's to benefit the general fund. Simple as that.
So it is something where we should have some clarity in that. We should put it back on our list to clarify what our intent is with that. Whatever it was set up for, it's our decision as to how to use it, and we should clarify that. But the point I'm making is that using that as a hedge against timber prices going down is something that is not sustainable. You're not going to be able to continue doing that year after year as timber goes down. The amount in the general fund will go down as the timber goes down over a period of time, and the numbers are big enough that fund can't prevent that from happening. So we do need a policy there. Number 3, significant restructuring always includes upfront costs. So it would be wise to be conserving cash if the intent is to take significant but as yet unknown action. And then number 4, which is pretty important, but I'm nervous about what words I use, but you folks achieve balance in this budget. There are 2 major tools that you use. One is that you were able to sweep up unspent funds and to not reallocate those moving forward. And the second was that you removed from the budget some unfilled positions. So by attrition, reduced headcount. Now, those are both good policy things to do. It means, though, that the tools that you use to manage the budget mean that it's far less likely that next year's budget will significantly underspend the budgeted amount here. So I'm not all arguing with the fact that it's been done, but we all need to recognize that means that when this budget says it will spend down reserves by an amount of 3.5 million, we should expect it to be close to 3.5 million than to 0. In other words, we should expect the ending fund balance to be far closer to 2.4 million than to the 5.9 million that it is when we start the budget year. I know that's kind of obvious, but I think it needs to be said. So the discussion. So this is where I didn't have time to finish my thinking, before I came here. We're being asked to support a budget that reduces our reserves by a significant amount. And we're being asked to do it because we're going to be entering into a discussion about implementation of the Baker Tilly recommendations, which is by all likelihood a discussion of next year's budgeting. And if we, over this year, allow our general fund balance to decline by the amount that we're talking about, that doesn't put us in great position for having significant funds available for significant restructuring. And I think as a group, we need to, we're being asked to have some faith in something we haven't seen. And that faith isn't, by having that faith, we're spending significant reserves, which may put us in a worse position to implement something that we don't know the nature of because we haven't seen it. So I think it's a big ask. It's not a crazy ask. I understand why you're doing this. I don't at all mean to suggest I can't believe you did this. That's not the point. But there's a big ask that we're being asked. And I think that we need to have some really in-depth discussions to understand how we could be comfortable doing that. And I think those discussions are going to take a significant amount of time. and they're gonna require us to ask some, ask for, data analysis to be done by staff. And for us to spend significant time discussing the results of that data analysis. And so I'm looking at the budget calendar, and I saw that we have a calendar which is set up, which has the next budget meeting spending 3 hours, is it? Is it two or 3 hours? Spending 3 hours talking about what it is that that each of the departments does. And well, I think that that's great information to share. I'm worried that we don't have time to really dive into the nature of why the county is unsustainable to this degree. And I went back and just while I was sitting here, just did my sort of a rough view of what I come up with 4 generations of unsustainability in the time that I've been watching this. And Gen 1 is the point at which the Board of Commissioners, I was not on it, Board of Commissioners cut the library.
What year was that?
Well, I was mayor then, so it's gonna be 2012 or earlier. I don't know the exact year, but good question. What year was that? So that's your first question, Sherry. So the library was removed, all the funds were available for other purposes. And within a couple of years, a process started of removing functions, removing services that the county had been doing. And the 2 that I noted are passports. We still have a sign on the door saying no passports. And the daily hours at the planning desk were cut, and I think some other daily hours were cut also. But behind that was a reduction in staff across many disciplines, which resulted in inability to have kind of the face-to-face interaction with the public that we used to have. So that was Gen 2, and that was all working up to the operating level, operating levy. So Gen 3 is we come in with a 5-year operating levy, which has now been renewed, so we're in year 6 of that. And when we look at the effect that had, that in its first year opened up a significant amount of available funds in the general fund to undo some of the cuts that Gen 2 had put in place to rebuild services. But if you look at where we are today, we're kind of back where we started. And that was based on, you prepared this document, Clayton, right? And this hasn't been shared yet.
I think we go see.
Okay, so
I don't think I shared it. You had some issues with it, so I don't think we.
I don't remember specifically, but my point is that this is part of the discussion that we could have, right?
Yeah.
So this is a document that Clayton prepared, which shows over the years, right before the levy and since the levy, what the effect has been on the general fund of expenditures of the various departments. So that's the sort of deep detail that I think would be helpful to get into to appreciate, because now we're in Gen 5, where the discussions, we have Baker Tilly's done some significant analysis, which I have not seen, and I'm presuming none of us have seen yet. You guys have seen drafts, but we don't know what to expect there. But we do know that it comes on the heels of 4 generations of attempts to address sustainability, which have had, not because they haven't had an effect, but they've had inadequate longevity to their effect, if that's a fair way, that's a good euphemism for it, because we find ourselves back with a need to address pretty much the same problems again. So I've just got this big question in my head of how I can vote for a treading water. I'm sorry, I'm using that term. That wasn't your term.
Temporary.
What was the term? A placeholder. Yeah, I was we can vote for a placeholder budget, where the placeholder may put us in a position where if we accept the Baker Tilly recommendations, we may not have funds to implement them. And if we don't accept them, we're in even worse situation then we don't have a plan and we don't have reserves. So not saying that I can't vote for this budget, I'm saying I don't have enough information yet. So that's where I am.
Can I ask a question about the Baker Tilly report? Does it provide solutions out of the budget deficit that we're in, or is it just highlighting?
Today, Association of Oregon Counties circulated, they're doing this, these meetings that are looking at, the need to generate more revenues in the state of Oregon. And so they had 3 sample studies, and so one of our comparator counties is Tillamook County. And so Tillamook County just completed a study, that would look, I'm not saying that what their solutions are would be our solutions, but it's a similar kind of process by which you look at your operation, how you're structured. Are there ways to change, and for more efficiency? Are there things that you're not doing that you should? So it's a review of, fees that you could be charging, or how are you charging against your comparable counties? And then the third thing is, what things could you not be doing? Could you spin off to districts, or have other people do for you, or what revenue sources are available to you? And so, yeah, in 2019, this county, in addition to proposing a levy, proposed a prepared food and beverage tax. Many of the non-mandated services that the county provides are something that the over 4 million tourists who visit Hood River County on an annual basis use. And so for us, that's something different than another county may propose, but that's an example of cut costs, cut how you're organized and doing things, or raise revenues. And obviously for our county, that has been very slim all of these years because of our permanent property tax rates. Our staff would love to get behind the ability to have a revenue source that could allow us to do the job that we do, and recognize that there are comparator counties, but Hood River County is different. That what you compare on generally is population size and your average assessed value and those sorts of things. What it doesn't take into consideration is the visitor count that we have, that actually means that we're servicing a population that is an urban population size. And so what does that mean in terms of the services that we're providing? So.
Well, I just want to say that every year we get right to this point and we all struggle with a budget that is unsustainable, which I don't disagree with. But our county's running extremely thin. I mean, we hear from all the department heads, we hear from the sheriff. We all know that there's not enough revenue generated to support what we're basically doing. And every year we struggle with doing this. We're going to have to do something to create revenue. And in my opinion, that's what we need to get behind. Regardless of this budget, we have to, I know we have that study out, but no matter what comes back, I just don't. We all run some small businesses, most of us do, or large business, and you have to have enough revenue to do your job. But cutting staff when you don't have enough staff to do it already isn't going to fix it either. So we're going to have to come up with more money. We have to figure out a way to generate revenue. Because in my opinion, I don't know how we can continue to cut people or cut staff or departments when we're already down to that line. I don't know how we can get much thinner than what we are.
I think my only concern with that is that we don't have we don't have a lot of control over adding revenue streams. To me, I see, the most concerning thing that sounds like we've gotten from Baker Tilly already is we can't using your words, efficiency our way into sustainability. And so to me, that means either increase revenue streams one way or another, whatever that is. Consolidation of services with city or partnering, I mean, those kinds of things. Or cutting a lot, which could be painful. And those two things, there's no assurance of, and that's what concerns me the most, right? There's no assurance that the voters will give us more money. No matter how great our ask is and how well planned it is. And secondly, there's no guarantee that we can find efficiencies in services provided, because we need a willing partner in that endeavor. So if we don't have that, then, and if we do a placeholder, as we say, and again, I'm not saying I wouldn't vote for it, but my challenge is that then you're just that much closer to having to make drastic, then you've got no moves if those other things don't come to fruition and we've spent down our reserves. Then it's not even a discussion. It's everybody takes it. I don't think you can do it with just giant haircuts, right?
I think it's actually a little worse than that. I think that
But that makes me feel even better.
just mathematically, if we continue on this budget for this year, presuming that in the next year, we look at a magic way to create the revenues that are necessary to support some of the recommendations that are before us, I don't think we have enough money in place at that point to implement that. Maybe we do, but I'm not. It's pretty much skin of our teeth to get through that. And given that I haven't even seen that plan, I'm not going to be thrilled about skating into a plan with zero cushion left. Even if I have a plan in front of me, I haven't seen the plan. So that's what I think our budget cycle is this year. And Dad, you're absolutely right that we've been here before, but I guess it just feels different every time we get there. But yeah, I'm not saying we can't. I'm not saying that a placeholder is out of order. I'm not sure that it works. And we have to know, we have to be confident that it works before we say, yeah, that's our plan. We're moving forward for this year this way.
Right. Well, I'm getting older, so it's hard for me to remember years back, but we had similar discussions and we were able to, the county was able to pass a public safety levy, that gen, but we were very deliberate about saying we've got X amount of reserves. And if we go past this, if we spend down more, then we're in even, we have bigger issues. And, thankfully that first public safety levy passed, but.
Well, I mean, it was the first one passed on the second try.
Yes.
Right. And if it hadn't passed, there was not another year to figure it out.
Yeah.
There were layoffs that happened if that didn't pass, because there was no way, because we were in a situation similar to this where there was nothing left in the budget.
Yeah.
And that's what I want to talk about.
Yeah.
And I agree with Commissioner Weathers when we talk about the 4 million visitors, the way to get revenue from those visitors, the only way I can see is a tax, but that requires the vote of the Book County, and it hasn't worked in the past. I think we need to make, that message clear, and I'm happy to pay that tax. And I voted for it every time, but it hasn't worked in the past, and I hope we have a better message. But again, there's no guarantee.
And if I may, I think that is part of the desire of the department directors to have the opportunity next week is our county does really amazing things, and having the ability to start telling that story. You've seen us start to do it with Hood River County 101. I think our community doesn't realize the things that we do that are at risk. And I think our department directors would like the opportunity to do that in a public forum so that we start to set the stage for the really hard discussions that are coming. I think the other thing is
How do we get that out there though? I'm sorry to interrupt.
Oh.
So can I ask, Sophie, how many people are on?
online.
Mhm.
1%.
And I mean, mean, I guess it's recorded and we could help tell that story, but the problem I have and doing this long enough in city government is it seems like nobody pays attention until there's something that they really, that hits them right in the face, or, I mean,
Right.
everything's good and it's empty and our hardworking staff is here but the community isn't,
Well, I think that's
they're not listening, they don't understand.
full marketing campaign, basically, it's an
Yeah.
investment.
We don't marketing. We haven't seen, none of us have seen the plan.
Yeah.
So it's being suggested that there's a solution out there and the solution somehow involves some revenues, and it sounds like the revenues may come from an ask, which I'm highly skeptical of, highly suspicious of, but I'm not gonna say that's crazy until I've seen something. But we have to answer on the budget before we see that. So how do we do that?
I mean, I understand the department's desire to tell the story to us, but I think the board was seasoned committee. I think we all know, I mean, certainly the commissioners know how hard everybody in the audience works. I don't think it's not wanting to provide more, it's just our ability to provide more, and I'm just, given the challenges we have ahead, I just, I don't know how that changes anything necessarily. If there is something that helps get the word out to the community, everybody in the audience wants to
And sometimes that is.
find 5 people to
you
get
know.
to bring into but I'm not sure. Again, to Arthur's point, if we don't know the plan, we don't know the direction, it's hard for us.
Well, I think with any exercise, I shouldn't call it an exercise, with any focused plan like this, first you have to recognize that you have a problem. And then you have to work through the solutions, and then you pursue the solutions. And if the solutions don't come to pass, then you know what, you know the options that you have ahead. Right now, what I'm hearing from our department heads is that this budget doesn't accurately reflect what the problem is, because there were cuts that it took to get to this. So this doesn't really reflect how truly dire the situation is if we were truly providing the services as we should. And so I think it is helping to set the stage for what the problem is. It's incumbent on us then to take that information and the materials and create, the marketing to start getting the word out. I think, there is another piece to this that, so there's an interesting paragraph in the administrative code for the Board of Commissioners in regards to the role of the Board of Commissioners as conveners. Paper.
Very.
This paper, all right. County Administrative Code 6A 11, the Board of Commissioners shall coordinate its efforts with those of other public jurisdictions, and particular emphasis shall be placed on eliminating duplication of services, thereby providing the taxpayers of the county with the best services and facilities possible in the most efficient manner. When you think about the options and we talk about spinning off services that the county may provide, like, we have a parks district, we have these other districts. All of those special districts come with administration. Are we truly looking at the board? And you know what? Thank AOC County College that said, Board of Commissioners for counties have a very special role in convening because of our statutory authority being so broad. There is a fiscal problem in Hood River County, and our permanent property tax rate is low, but our overall taxation, because of all of the entities, and I'm making friends like crazy right now with all
Yeah,
the
there you go.
entities out there. I realize that, but I think it is a question about how we coordinate and provide services in the county. And my hope is that this Baker Tilly work can help us start that discussion, and that's like generational work. That's, what's the term I heard today? What was that term? That deviant positivity. Oh, sorry, that is.
I guess my only point is that you said public doesn't really know how bad it is. I think it does. We're we're budgeting to spend down our beginning fund balance $5 million in 2 years. That's a pretty large percentage of our overall budget. So it's pretty bad.
Yeah, but unfortunately, people don't know anything about this, just like you said, they don't know until something that they really are involved with gets got, and then they.
Or, you know, just to put an edge on it, if we have a session where I hear that the health department says that they're going to remove my liver, that's not going to change the math. So I don't understand how that helps inform the discussion that we have right now, which is a mathematical discussion. But that's, I think, really helpful as we look at rolling out the Baker Tilly analysis, and we with the public get to learn what Baker Tilly has told you. Having it doing a department by department basis, having major public meetings, or at least meetings in which we get this information and the public is welcome to be part of them. I think that's great. I just don't understand how it gets me to the end point of voting yes on a budget so that we meet the June publication deadline, which coming up really quick. This is just hard stuff. And it's going to get harder, I think, through the next couple of meetings. So I'm not saying I don't want to know what staff wants to tell us. I don't know what staff is going to tell us that's going to impact the processes in front of us.
Okay, I'm gonna pull us back to the agenda. We've got a little less than half an hour left to finish our work today. So there's two sort of open items still. One is the budget book information form and format. That's possibly, I think, where we would maybe get a walkthrough of the book if we wanted that. I know you've done that for us in past years. And we also need to then talk about our future meetings and specifically this request to do the departmental report outs. So I guess when it comes to the budget book information, are there things, Sherry, that you think, like very high level things that you feel like we're missing or we need to be made aware of related to this, or what are you thinking we should consider and give you feedback on?
You've already looked at page 21 and asked for revision. That would be the biggest place that I would put you today, is to look at this budget. It is not sustainable, as we all are aware. There's only two decisions to be made. Maybe we should try both and see which one sticks, and it's try and increase revenue or cut services. We're already cutting services when we don't fill positions. So do we do something more formal? Would that get the budget approved this year? I will tell you that I pushed very hard to get these lower numbers. This year I pushed people, I think, past where they're used to me pushing, I'm sure. And it looks really good this year compared to last year. We're favorable, so Arthur does have a point. Half of that red line might be green, but the other half will come to fruition probably.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I didn't understand the last phrase. The other half will come to fruition. What do you mean?
Probably.
No, what does that mean?
Of the $5.8 million loss, or 5.9 as you rounded earlier? No.
It's
Beginning
3.4.
balance, yeah.
The beginning fund balance, 5.9.
The revenues over expenditures,
It's 3.5 million.
right,
Okay.
after you, yeah,
Once you pull back that contingency
yes.
unappropriated. Yeah, okay.
Are there,
Okay.
just to ask the question, from staying on the budget book form and format,
Yeah,
other than the request that's been made, are there any structural changes to the presentation of the budget compared to a year ago?
No, we try and stay close to statute.
And this is great. I mean, this has been such an improvement over previous years.
Yeah.
Every year, I think it just gets more readable.
Yeah.
But you just said we have two choices. One is this and the other.
Increasing revenue,
We don't have a proposal to increase revenue, do we?
sales tax.
Oh, but not in front of it. Not, the budget committee doesn't have, there's no budget here that says.
it would be
So-
the consideration. For the
That's why I don't know how the budget committee can really help with this, because it's the board of commissioners who would have to decide. Are we gonna attempt an increase in revenue beyond what we've tried in recent years? Or are we gonna cut services, and where would you cut those services? So these I see more as board of commissioner conversations. But you may disagree, you may want the extra feedback. So, yeah.
Do you disagree when I stated that the budget committee needs to be comfortable with the degree to which this budget spends down reserves, given the lack of clarity as to what the path forward is forward beyond that? Are you disagreeing with that or you agree?
I'm agreeing with you.
Okay, okay.
Put that on the record.
Well, I mean, I understand your point. I mean, ultimately, the budget committee can make recommendations on the policy changes or policy decisions to get to a certain place, right? But ultimately, it's the elected officials' decision to act on, said recommendations.
Work. I mean,
And
that looks like a lot of work for all of us.
yeah,
Both paths.
I'm really nervous about a message coming out of this meeting that we're looking to increase taxes. We're looking to put a sales tax in place. We haven't heard any proposal on anything like that yet. And so I think, Bill, let's keep all of this in perspective. We're waiting for June to see what Baker Tilly has to tell us.
agreed.
Yeah,
We have to approve this before June.
I know
So
that.
We
Yep.
get.
That's why I want to spend time talking about how we get to the comfort to approve this, rather than how we get the information out, which informs the Baker Tilly process.
Well, the timing of the Baker Tilly is really frustrating too. I mean, why why did it start in February? Why, based on our conversations last year, why was that not pushed forward so that we could consider the Baker Tilly for this budget?
It was a matter of timing and capacity. I mean, there are realities in our currently lean environment. So Baker Tilly started their work in December. And it is a process by which they gather information. And so the calendar was a December to June calendar. And so that became a factor of when we could get them under contract. And yes, I take responsibility for the timing not being ideal on all of this. So.
Yeah, go ahead.
I just have a comment real quick. I would love to hear from staff next week and in the following weeks, but I think we have a good point about the amount of time it takes to gather all that information from staff in this setting. And if it is just us as the audience for that, which I think we can assume is likely going to be the case in the coming weeks for this forum, then perhaps we condense down or skip some of that and or at the very least, I'd love to hear about how we can, just ideas from each department about how to increase revenues from their departments. And again, we may not even have time for that in this next few weeks. So, if it's possible that the budget committee is a part of that over this next year, I'd love to hear more about if that's an option. If it's just the board of commissioners, then that's fine. I don't know how all that works, but I think if increasing revenue is so important, it is really hard to just jam all that into this couple of weeks.
Yeah.
It's not going to work very well.
If this body is heading toward not having the presentations, then we would ask for the ability to provide you with a PowerPoint that would be would have been presented. Our first desire would be to have put all the faces with the names in the departments. But if this committee decides that that is not the option for next week, then those materials are being developed and we can put those on our budget page and, yeah.
I'd like to propose one alternative then to just a live in-person presentation is if every director could just record themselves giving their presentation on their own, on their time during the week.
Oh.
That can be made available to us on the county website. Everyone will have a chance to see it. That might be. That's something I'd like to throw out there.
I'm imagining that in June, when the Baker Tilly stuff gets rolled out, that would be the opportunity to do all of this information sharing. Because then it can be done in context. In terms of what we could do as part of this budget cycle, I'd kind of like to get through the math of it first, and then get into the departmental details. Especially, if our conclusion is, hey, we got to cut stuff. Okay, well, that's going to take, deeper dive.
Right.
Things change at that point. I'm sure hoping that's not the case.
Right. Okay.
I prefer to go the way that I thought you were headed, Matt, and that is to have departmental presentations. But not so much as an explanation of what they do, which is where you spent a lot of time last year, but then we had two, but. Thank you. But more focused on options are cutting staff. I don't like that one. That one's at the very bottom of my list. Drop-in services or increasing revenue. I like those latter two. So I ask the departments to come and say, what can you do in terms of increased revenue? Is it going to take an ask of the public? Would we have to get to the point where you say, here is a levy proposal, and without it, we will close XX parks? That's legit. You hear those conversations.
What you're describing is kind of like a marginal dollar discussion. If you have one more dollar, this is what you do. If you have one less dollar, this is what you do. Is that fair?
We could set a target. We could say during the department discussions, how could we come up with another $3 million? And just not commit to any of it, but just hear it. I mean, if the public works director could come to us and say, yeah, I could get you $500,000 and here's the parks I would close to do it.
There's a rock star, she could do
It's
more than
okay.
$500,000.
Okay to hear.
Is that what you had in mind, Matt?
Yeah, so I guess I'd like to make a motion that we change the format for next week. And instead of department directors coming in for the last couple of weeks and giving it in person, they just record and however they want, just record a video of these kind of topics.
Okay. So you have a motion? Your second?
Still a little confused, man. I'd still prefer in person because of the
I'll second
conversation ability.
discussion. Go, I say.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor to ask, at least for next week, to ask that the information from the department be delivered virtually, so we can watch it on our own time and then have. Be delivered virtually, I'm not gonna say. What are people's thoughts about doing that in terms of that information sharing around activities?
The idea that we would get more information in a compressed amount of time by doing that. Okay.
Yes. What was your thought about hearing it in person?
It just seems to be us the opportunity to have a back and forth exchange and really understand what people are saying.
And for them with that information, that would allow us to decide whether it would be in the best interest financially on whether to cut or keep staff in that department, because they've made the case on whether they're able to maintain or increase revenue with the staff that they have and the services they provide, or whether they aren't able to provide revenue, and so then we have to make that hard decision.
Well, my thinking would not be to sort of threaten people by saying, look, either you give us a way to make more money or your staff will be cut. I don't like that approach. It would be more of a. Is there any way for you as a department to increase fees or find other revenue sources, not statutory, that aren't getting this budget document? And if we compile those, where would we be?
Right, yeah, just more information that we might not see here.
Isn't
Yeah.
that what you guys did already?
In a preliminary bid fertility sit-in that I was there, they talked about a few areas where they thought we could increase our fees and maybe make a little bit of a difference. I've already talked to those department heads and their research was flawed a little bit. We went back and went through and there were other funds where we put all our funds into non-departmental and use it to help cover the whole general fund. Some people, for example, would take the same fund that they receive and they might put it to Eric's department or the health department. So we sort of put it all into the general fund in one place, which is called non-departmental, and then it all closes up. And we get the big red.
I think they would each be eager though to identify that question. Because I think they're in their own voices in terms of what they think they're leaving on the table and what the opportunities are.
Matt has the same one.
Thank you. Sorry, yeah, I'm a bit kind of confused on the revenue side here. I don't understand the mechanics by which we can, at this stage, raise any additional revenue. Can anyone comment on that for me?
I can. Some of the best ideas we had last year to this effect were adding a position to Director of Youth Department, another assessor, right? It's a long-term move that will raise more funds over the years, right? So that was a great thing that we were able to kind of push for last year. I'd love to hear more things like that if they're out there.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair. I mean, that in theory is also a tax that we've somehow snuck under the radar. I don't know. It just feels like for me the revenue side has been that side of the equation is sort of fixed, and so my gut is just that we have to kind of hit things with the sledgehammer this year. Is that sort of what I'm hearing from other committee members? And I'm sorry I'm not there. I wish I was able to do this in person, but
I think revenues are fixed for this year. I can't imagine there's anything we could do that could have any effect in this year. And so that's again why I want to figure out if we can live with this spending plan, given this fixed revenues.
In the long run, I think that what Chris alluded to, which was to ask each department what certain cuts would save, that would help inform our decision later in what specifically we're asking for, because we're going to have a very targeted, specific ask. We can't just say we'd like more money. And so when we do that, we're going to have to find the things that mean something to the voters, and to have a number of that from the department, like you said about the parks, someone did, we could close that park and that would save us this amount of money. I think that's the kind of information we're going to need if we go out for a tax anyway. So those might be interesting numbers for that purpose. I don't know if we're at that point yet, but I think eventually that's what we're going to need to do, because this has to be, whatever we do has to be targeted, especially if we're asking for a food and beverage tax. And we're going to have to decide how we're going to sell that. And it's going to depend on what we'll lose without. So
it's going to be a challenging ask of the directors to say, well, I would cut this.
I know, I'm not saying it's easy.
Yeah. I think the easiest way to do that honestly would be to invite our predecessors in. They're going to tell you the discussion that they had, 7 years ago about this exact subject.
And I guess my
particularly when we're at the level of fees, I felt like last year we did have a fair amount of talk about fees and things, and we can spend a lot of time doing that. It seems like the numbers are not that big, and I honestly would prefer that happen internally, that the department heads be coming to you and saying, here's what we could do around fees or money, and that gets sort of brought to us. So I think I also support the idea of not having the department by department report outs next week. I think having the virtual information could be really helpful and a nice way of building an information base.
Yes.
For what might need to happen in the future. I feel like the question we're really facing is how much of our reserves are we willing to give permission to spend down in the coming year in this process? And currently, we would be giving permission to spend more than half of the existing reserves in the next budget year. And that's sort of the question I think we're facing, is whether or not we want to give the thumbs up on that.
I think that's
Well
framed
said.
very well, because it seems like any appreciable revenue source would have been vetted by staff prior to this. I would think.
So we have two things to do to finish the motion we have on the table and to do a couple more things related to scheduling. Is there any more discussion before we take a vote on Matt's motion to defer to transition the department reports to
Just a little clarity on, I feel we're asking staff to, do a video by next week, I think is a pretty big ask. I'm wondering what you have in mind in terms of how soon we need to see this, whether this is something that can be done over a period of time, or
I
with
would,
your metric.
I don't think we have a lot of time. So it is a big ask, but it is a little easier than us sitting here for 10 or 15 minutes giving the same message, right? So it is a big ask. I would love to see it by next week. If that's possible. Before our next meeting.
Doable? We're recording the department. Yeah.
Sure.
So you're talking to them and it would be something to present. Could we present it or bring it on Thursday? Would you want it in advance of Thursday?
In advance, right?
I thought the idea was we would have it in advance and we would,
Okay,
you would come ready to go.
okay.
And it doesn't
Like-
yeah,
like-
it doesn't have to be extremely polished.
Yeah.
It's just as a replacement for whatever would have happened over the next week or two with.
Could I suggest giving a little discretion to staff, to say that we would like to see it either, before the following meeting, but if it could be before this meeting, that would be better. So that, Allison could have a chance to kind of work with folks and figure out, I don't know what production abilities they have. I don't know, how hard this is for them. I'm not sure. I mean, the question is, would it be do you really need it by next week, or if you had it in 2 weeks, would it just as good?
That's a good question. It's, all of us would need time to actually watch all of this and digest it too.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
It's a lot of info.
So
Well, we had preliminarily talked about having PowerPoints ready by Monday morning. So it would be adding a video by them then, so I think we'll make every effort.
Yeah.
No, by the meeting.
Wednesday evening or
So-
later.
As soon as possible.
I was gonna say, it seems like it'd be
As soon as
off, like,
possible.
they're not gonna be nearly as used, they'll be most useful to us if we have time to review them before our third meeting.
Okay.
It's awesome if we can look at them before the next meeting, but
Okay.
Yeah.
we may still be on the big numbers discussion
That's what I'm
next
trying to say.
week.
Thank you.
So,
Okay.
you're welcome, Mark.
That works.
Maybe by Thursday.
By, what date was that?
I'm hearing 2 days. I'm hearing third meeting and I'm hearing next week. That's
Thursday. Thursday meeting.
So
Has not been set yet.
they'll, right, we haven't set, so they'll be most useful for us if we can get them by the time to review before the third meeting. And if staff are able to provide it before our next meeting, that'd be awesome.
And our next meeting is the 30th.
Our next meeting is the 30th.
We have to set that.
We have to set, that's our next thing to do. Once we get this done. Is anyone, can we move to a vote on the motion? Anyone opposed to Matt's motion with various friendly amendments around timing?
Would work that.
No, okay, great. And thank you for the offer. I do really appreciate it. And I agree, the staff do super important work. It just. We gotta get this hard thing done. Okay.
Forgot,
Yes, go ahead.
on the other side of it, could we get a preliminary report from the Baker Tilly folks that
Mm,
maybe we could move in that direction as well?
So, they are, pulling things together. We have a meeting with them Friday and, we'll talk about that, with them. Their timing had a tentative final draft report at the June meeting. And then the idea would be that we would have some lengthy meetings to work through that.
I guess the question would be, what can they tell us that would help make us more comfortable with passing a budget with this sort of reserve spending?
And then,
They're smart financial people there. They may understand that question and say, I know what you need to see.
yep,
Okay, so, sorry, I want to move us on to setting the future meeting schedule. So. Shoot, I looked at this and then I have the calendar here.
Historically, if it's helpful, we normally have them at on Thursday afternoon, between 3 and 5.
Okay, perfect. And we need to. First budget committee meeting, April 23rd, and then, so basically. Remind me, you would like for us to have for your all process to work according to time, when is the latest date that this budget committee needs to approve? Or recommend the budget and forward it to the Board of Commissioners?
This is when we look at Clayton.
We asked for May 14th.
Okay,
He did allow us, when I say he, I'm talking about Clay.
Mhm.
We have to put things together, like that, and then I send it off to a CPA for review, just to make sure, because
We're
the
getting-
budget, I don't want it to. be audit.
no, that makes sense, okay.
Yeah.
So I guess I could, one possibility I see is we schedule every Thursday from now through May 14th with the option to, not meet on one of the times if we feel like we've got their work done, or if we sent staff away with a bunch to do.
How many Thursdays is that?
That gives us four.
Four more meetings.
I'm counting right.
This.
3 more until the 14th.
3 more meetings, 4 total, yeah,
Oh, okay, 3 more.
3 more meetings for total.
so I do have one conflict, the first week in May, I will be. In a part of the world that's about 12 hours different than this meeting,
Okay,
so
got it.
I'm
Yeah,
not
that's a tough
available
one.
that week.
Okay.
So I can get up at 2 o'clock in the morning,
Okay,
might be a challenge.
okay.
Any other day of the week works for me too.
Yeah, Thursday's generally good for me. The only conflict I have is next Thursday. I have an AOC budget meeting from 1 to 2, but
Okay,
if we meet anytime after that, I'm good.
and our meeting for next week was originally scheduled to start at 2 instead, right? Which
Well, I was at 1:15. If I have an overlap here, because if you sent a modification with 1:15 on it, right? And if that's the case, I will not be able to be
Okay.
there at the beginning of it, but.
And so your typical, has been 3 to 5.
Okay, I'm just wondering about next week. If I'll need to leave a little early next week, I think, but so I'm wondering if we might start at 2.
If we start at 2,
like
then I'll
calendared.
just do I'll do my meeting from this building, so I can be here immediately at 2.
Okay,
2 to 5.
yeah.
I can do that.
Probably given today, I think. So today was done the 30th from 2 to 5, May 7th. Or 6th, 7th,
Yeah.
from 3 to 5, and May 14th from 3 to 5.
Yep, those are open for me.
Right?
If I can get up.
Uh,
Morning.
We have
What's up?
I have that right, on the 14th, I mean, that walk through Gunner. Something I can't remember.
Oh, was walking through that. Yeah, where?
Yes.
Can pick other days, add other days
Okay,
in if you
okay.
need to
Right.
make the deadline.
Okay.
I know
That's
it's-
good to remember. No, I understand.
Yeah.
I think, I don't know, I think a lot of us probably have been holding Thursdays, so we'll maybe
Yeah.
use those for now.
Thursdays, yeah, I
Um,
carefully make other things away from there.
Great.
And the considering Clayton's work on the schedule, I would request that you take a quick look as to whether, as to what the last possible dates are, presuming that the Board of Commissioners is willing to schedule special meetings to do things. Because I assume that you,
We've kicked it out 1 week further, and last year was the only year that we have done that. And we turned that has to translate to entries into the system, redoing the document, send it off to the auditors. They do their process. They got it back to us really fast last year.
One day.
That's not a guarantee that they were able to get it back to us that fast next year.
I'm not following what you're telling me.
When
Last year.
What
we extended it last, so we added 4 additional weeks of possible meetings after last one. All the years before that had only been 3, what we have right now.
Right.
Last year we did 4, and that barely worked because our auditors were able to turn around us sending that to them for review within 1 day. That's not a guarantee that they're able to turn that around that fast. They might say they don't have staff. They might say, you know, they might sit on it for 3 days before they get it back to us.
So
And so that might eat up that extra week. So my recommendation was to try to do it within the 3.
Okay.
There is the 4th if we need it, but then we're also running audit hit risks if they don't get us back to us with their review.
And so you're saying you'd rather see us put 2 meetings in a week? If
Yeah,
we need
that,
to.
that would be my.
Okay.
That's my vote.
Good.
Got it.
Thank you.
So not extending it to the week of the.
Yeah, it sounds like we'd be better off in
If it
terms
was-
of,
It's an option,
in
but
terms
it's
of
not.
being
my-
kind to our staff and auditors, we'd be better to compress our work a little bit in order to get it done by the 14th. All right, I've heard a few things regards our next meeting, few things, or I guess for stuff in the interim. One was a copy of the resolution 2223 coming out to us. I know I have the next meeting, would like to hear see some stuff, hear some stuff related to this issue that the big number, that this budget as proposed spends more than half of, I believe, the existing reserves, although I've heard about this timber interest and capital vehicle fund. So if you think those are relevant to the conversation, that'd be helpful. But that's certainly where my concern is, regards knowing more to make a good decision. Are there other items of information? Oh, and the projected. Yeah, projected for this.
Got that.
Are there any other items of information or things that committee members would like to share with staff in terms of where our thinking is going and what they can do relative to facilitating that in our next meeting, in our reconvening of this meeting next week?
All of my analysis centers around the growth of payroll and the rate of growth of payroll and the trends in payroll.
Okay.
And so Clayton had prepared a really interesting dive into it a couple of weeks ago. A bunch of questions about that, but sharing that with everybody so everyone can see what I've seen on that, I think would be really helpful. And maybe, I think you're right, I did have some issues, I just can't remember what they are, so I'll have to
You want us to help you with what I think those issues are that you have?
I will go this evening and talk to my dog about it, he's been ordering my name.
And do you also feel like that it would be helpful for us to have the bar graph? The trending in that bar graph that
That's
you
what I'm
showed?
talking
Oh, okay, that is the payroll.
I can't find,
Oh,
oh, here it is.
okay,
That-
okay,
So that and
Great.
I had sort of talked with Sherry about a broader dive into this, into another slice on this data, and I just have to remember what I was trying to get to.
okay.
Norcore is moved to non-departmental, you don't like that.
Well, I just was very confusing. I didn't, there was a big change that between the two different forms of data you gave me, the data was, it made it look like there was this huge jump that wasn't there. So I got that.
I think the jump is there, but yeah, some things that were not specifically, you could say the department did, even though it's in their budget. I would move it to the non-departmental, so it's reflected more accurately. And that is a net revenue division, one of the few, so it looks different. It's just.
Okay, I'll commit to spending some significant time tomorrow, looking through this, figuring out what I think would make it clearer. So you guys don't have to go through the same stuff I went through to figure out what's going on. And I'll get it to you by the end of business tomorrow.
Okay. And will it be possible for us to get that somewhat ahead of the meeting?
It's ready as is right now.
Okay,
When we flipped things the way Arthur wanted, I didn't want to look at it if you've ever done a graph and everything disappears, but you have this one thing.
Yeah.
That's what it was. So,
Expenditures go up, revenues go down. I excluded the non-departmental division because it
Okay.
skews it dramatically.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
everybody else's department is
Yeah.
more visible
Okay,
when you exclude non-departmental.
okay. So if we could maybe get
Those
it by
graphs are available.
Tuesday morning. If we could get it by maybe Tuesday morning ahead of next Thursday's meeting, it would give us time to sort of look at it at a time somewhere in there.
I'm just worried there's a good chance you need them to explain it.
Yes.
I sure did.
Okay, perfect.
and
So, yeah.
I have it in Excel with shows you everything changes. It's really easy to understand the whole workbook.
Good.
If-
And is there anything else that folks feel like, places where you feel like information or explanation?
Let's find out
Helpful in next meeting.
when they should submit something to staff.
100%.
If you have a question, submit it to staff by
Oh, I see.
the X time.
How do you want to handle that in terms of if committee members have specific questions? I know in the past you've offered to meet with folks directly, to have them sent in and addressed in this meeting. What works there?
Same, it's the same.
Okay,
Clayton doesn't work in the building, so if you'd like to speak about the technical side of things and you wanna Clayton in on the meeting, we need to know what it is to set up the time and a day.
He doesn't even have a name tag.
Today I'm like, Clayton, you need a name tag.
sure.
Been here long enough, come on.
Yeah, it seems like it should be official by now.
So is your thinking, staff, that if committee members have questions, sending them in by like Monday is best if they want to get some information before the Thursday meeting? Is that kind of what you're having?
I sure would do that. I wouldn't be expecting anything if I sent something in.
Yeah.
After that, but
You're the worst. You're the worst at sending it in the morning of the meeting.
I've never done that in my life.
And I do appreciate, I think you've done a good thing in the past where you've like compiled the questions and the responses.
Yeah.
Just to partly preserve the public process and also be
Right,
sure
right.
that we're all.
Yep.
Getting the same answers. Okay.
Isaac Square, we discussed this about a month before this meeting.
Are there?
There.
Great. I'm ready to move us to recess. Yes,
Was there a motion for setting the meetings, the schedule?
we did not vote on a motion. Would someone like to make a motion about the meeting schedule?
I mean, we have a meeting the next 3 Thursdays from 3 to 5.
Except to.
And
I-
next one's.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you. 2 to 5 next weekend and 3 to 5 the following 2.
I'll second. Letty seconded. Any discussion? Anyone opposed? Okay, it passes. Yes, there's a motion.
Thank you. And then recess at 5:08 until April 30 at 3:00. 2:00, sorry. Yeah.
Sorry.
Not me.
Yep, sounds right. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you all.
Just recessing.